Glad to have you join us back on today's edition of the Market Report. And my guest is already seated all the way down there in Lagos to help us unravel the local content development in the area of our gas development in Nigeria. A very good day to you, Dr. Wisdom Enang.
Hi, good day. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so let's get the ball rolling fast. First and foremost, I will ask you one of the questions I've asked other experts in oil and gas, economy, and the rest of them. What is your take on this tariff hike from Donald Trump and its impact on global oil sector?
I think I'm going to help you by domesticating it and telling you the impact on the Nigerian people. So think about it. Donald Trump says 14% tariff hike on our exports, and that includes oil. Now we have two choices. The choice number one means that we either export that item and then at the end of the export price, we add the tariff. But what that means is our prices will be 14% cheaper, more expensive than what is obtainable in the international, options. But the second option is for us to absorb the effect of the 14% to our profit margins. And so if we want to keep the prices stable or the same, at the other end where the prices meet the product meet the consumers, we would then absorb the 14%, and then that 14% would count less for us in terms of profitability. So what does it mean? It means that Nigeria either risk making increasing its prices to absorb the 14% and then losing market share, and then that means losing the people you're selling to, or Nigeria would risk selling more items and earning less of the money. So those are the two things, and that means that we're obviously losing value in some shape or form, and ultimately means less money for the economy. Ultimately means we need to resort to borrowing for funding and repayment of our international effects denominated obligations.
Exactly. I really love your submission. It's quite practical and express a wider section of the larger Nigerian intellectuals who have also put mouth to this issue and said at least this is the way to go. But let's get down to the issue of today. Doc, many people would have been come across the word local content. What does local content really mean? Let me streamline it to the issue of our gas sector in Nigeria. Local content in the gas sector, what does it really imply?
Local content is looking at the aspect of increasing the share of Nigeria's, production towards the oil and gas sectors. I'll give you a little bit of context. Now, if you think about most of the services that we used to offer before the advent of the Logic Act in 2010, most of those services and even some production, only 5% was done in Nigeria. The rest was done abroad. But less than 5%, that's the right way to put it. So local content is saying, look, there is no way you can, attempt to expand to near full, optimal capacity, the oil and gas potential, without talking about things like the primary, the primary linkage to the industry, which has to do with some of these refineries and the gas sectors. The secondary linkage, which has to do with the sectors that are providing services to the oil and gas sector. So the Local Content Logic Act was simply formed to say, look, we have a value chain in this primary and secondary linkage, and we want to make sure that we own the technology. Because I used to work for an IOC. There's a lot of technology that you want to adopt, and you have to get security clearance from the US or Netherlands, depending on which of the oil companies you're looking at, or France. And so the local content was saying, look, so that we reduce the possibility to weaponize the energy, fossil energy, let us own our technology. So it won't be tomorrow that the US would then, or for example, would then say, look, we don't want to supply this technology anymore, or we're not helping you guys, and that will stop. So it's basically taking ownership, ensuring that the things that you need for your operations are mostly done in country, and you make sure that there is an oversight that is provided by the Nigerian nationals. So that's the whole nutshell about local content.
Very interesting. And now, for us in Nigeria, since 2010, we have set a target for ourselves. For 2017, we set the target of 26%, and by 2027, we have set the target of 70%. That means ensuring that local content in the oil and gas industry is increased to this level. From what we have experienced as someone in the industry, and from some of us are also following that industry, we are tempted to ask the question: are we really working towards the 70% by 2027?
Yes, we are. And part of that is we've been able to achieve a substantial part of that. At least we've been able to achieve above 15%. I've not checked the numbers in recent time, but we are headed there. The reason I'm saying so is that now that we're having a time where the oil companies, most of them, IOCs, are diversifying and moving on to national companies. There's a growing interest. Where else are they going to set up their workforce for projects? The trouble with IOCs was that the IOCs were able to, maybe talk to their international affiliates. Somewhere in Houston, Texas, in Dallas, Texas, in London, and those international affiliates will be able to provide technological oversights. Will be able to support manufacturing of certain components. But when you have a national oil and gas company, they have no, headquarters anywhere in the world apart from Nigeria. So they have all the incentives to make sure they domesticate the technology and own it, because it means they can provide real quality oversight over the production of that technology. They can also do some sort of optimization of their processes by way of owning the technology. So we're going to exceed that quota way beyond, and a good sum of that production coming through the national oil companies. I mean, when I mean national, not just the government owned, but I'm talking about the domestic, the ones that are local oil and gas companies.
Exactly. And quite interesting that we are seeing a bit of government effort to ensure that local oil companies, local oil gas companies are getting their footing in that sector. But a lot of Nigerians who are watching us will also want to ask the question. Are you there, Doc?
Yes, I can hear you.
Now, a lot of Nigerians watching us will also want to ask the question. When we now talk about strengthening local content in the gas sector, can you help us, enumerate what it entails? Because a lot of them, because of the technicality in this sector, people like you, the industry has a lot of technicality that most of us sometimes we normally have to face you guys and ask you, what are these technicalities all about? So, strengthening local content in the gas sector, can you help us enumerate the benefits for our viewers?
Let me even enunciate what it needs to operationalize. I mean, if I can then talk about the benefits by extension. Now think about it. If you hear CNG and you are hearing adoption of CNG as a person, you're thinking, safety. How safe is this? Is it going to explode? What that creates is by itself, it creates an opportunity to deepen local content, because you're asking yourself, where can I get this cylinder recertified? He inspected from time to time. I don't want this thing to explode on me, right? You're also asking yourself, where can I even get the CNG refueling done? These are all ample opportunities that we can bring in the manufacturing capability, the controllers checks capabilities can be domesticated. That is deepening local content in gas. So when we do that, what does that mean? It means I can go and get a license, get trained, and then come and provide that service for Lagos, for Akwa Ibom, for Benin, for anywhere. It means that there'll be more jobs and opportunities for you and I. It also means, and because of the way we can segment some of the processes within the gas sector, it just means that you and I can, just hone in. We don't need to be a very big oil company with a lot of installations to take a big chunk of the economic opportunity. opening up that means that we have opened up possibilities for ordinary Nigerians with very little to become a part of it.
So I see there, Doc.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
Now, taking on that particular submission that you have made, at the end of it, we talk about technology, and we are still backward a little in terms of technology development. And this question normally prompt up anytime I'm discussing oil and gas sector. How can we balance local and international expertise to achieve this competitiveness that we already have in the gas sector in Nigeria? Balancing local and international expertise is very key.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Just coming to mind. One, knowledge transfer is the first thing that you need to think about. Knowledge transfer means how are we going to run a program that will come in to operationalize some of these technologies, to pass it on to us, and a very honest knowledge transfer. Now, two is the issue of licensing support. There is when you're looking at technology, especially ones that have been patented, you need to go out there and forge the right partnerships. Sometimes you may need to actually go and, yes, you have technical people here, but some people are doing some top level oversight on your technology, and you just get the license and retainerships required for that to happen. So anything technology is all about collaboration, but let's make sure that everybody's placed in their safe space. The people that are driven to solve complex problems are there. Maybe you have a retainership with them, and Nigerians can do every day-to-day operationalization of the technology. There's absolutely nothing wrong. No one is saying that everything has to be done 100%. There is still need for collaboration. The world is a global village. What we are saying is that let's move to a point where not only are we utilizing technology, but we are producing the technology or using it to a high degree, so much so that it also contributes to our GDP.
Exactly. I really love your submission in that regards, contributing to our GDP, because the federal government of Nigeria, as we speak right now, their 1 trillion economic target is all about to boost Nigerian GDP. And one of their major focus is the gas, with over 2.7 trillion cubic of gas under the feet of Nigerian land. We are looking at how to bring it out. But apart from that, a lot of Nigerians also ask, what are the challenges? Because we know there is no way we will not say there is no challenge in this sector. But from someone like you who have been in that sector for over 22 decades, if I could recall, what are the challenges that you have noticed that could also be that we need to really walk past?
I mean, the challenge in the gas sectors is even creating the right infrastructure to bring out what we call the potential gas. There is gas, right? The gas, but it's potential because it is proven gas but not produced gas. That's the first challenge. The second challenge is even another subset of infrastructure, which is the infrastructure to commingle the gas that would have been a stranded volume. Commingle that stranded volume so much so that it becomes a commercially viable volume that we can then take onto the market. And by this, I'm talking strategically about the flare gas. Those gas that we flare, it is only being flared because on one flare side, they have a certain quantity that really amounts to nothing. On another flare side, if we can create the right, technological, innovative, practice, and then make something out of this. And that is exactly what the Nigerian gas flare commercialization was going to be all about. We can harness value from these gas. And let me shock you, gas is not only important for the sake of power, electricity, or fuel. It is also the bedrock for the manufacturing of, to an 85% degree, the manufacturing of urea. So you can imagine how much contribution gas can make to our economy.
Exactly. And very interesting. I see that the government policy in that direction is quite being driven as a gas economy that they're looking forward to. But beyond that, let's also look at other aspects of this particular, development we are talking about local content in your, assessment of the regulatory agencies. How NCBM, that means Nigerian Content Development Board management has been, given the mandate to follow up on companies to comply with local content and the rest of them. What will be your assessment of NCBM all these years that have been created? I've made to understand they just celebrated some few years of their existence.
The NCDMB has done a very fantastic job. I mean, I go to conferences in Ghana, I go to conferences in the US, and the NCDMB is the local content champion of Africa. So they've done a fantastic job. They've clearly walked the talk. And of course, with the new team, I think one of the responsibilities of the new team is going to be extending local content beyond just the oil and gas sector. From the local content, there's a number of opportunities, but the NCDMB are hitting their target, and they are qualifying Nigerian companies based on competency, which is a very fantastic development.
Very interesting. So I think we can give kudos to NCBMB for doing that, Nigerian Content Development Board. But on the other way side, talking about companies operating in Nigeria, you know, the law is there to guide the operation in terms of local content. But from someone who is an insider and industry player, how are you seeing the company complying with local content in Nigeria?
Well, the companies are complying with local content, and that's why we're seeing that growth. The growth could have been better if we have more oil and gas activities, but because of the drill or drop policy of the federal government, because of the icing on the cake by way of the presidential directive on oil and gas reform, that has made given the companies the incentive to go back to the field and drill more, reservoirs, and the content is going to go beyond just being a percentage that literally trickle down to jobs, contracts, opportunity, consultancy, all sorts of opportunities that you and I can even attempt to, go in there and indicate our interest or send to our loved ones. We're going to see a lot of that coming pretty soon.
Very interesting. Now, let's take a look at the issue of monitoring and a compliance mechanism, as I earlier pointed out. But on the part of the federal government, the government is so interested in ensuring that we have a huge chunk of revenue coming from that side, and a lot of you guys are quite strategic in that oil and gas sector. I've always complained about government not investing much in that sector, but government is expecting much. So what would be your advice to the government in this regard? Government is actually looking for a huge revenue from this sector, but
infrastructure.
Okay, go ahead, Doc. Go ahead.
Yeah, infrastructure is very key. Investments needs to be done from an infrastructure perspective. Take ownership of this. One is by the government invest or creating such a very magnificent icing on the cake that will attract people that will be able to put their money in there. And I think that there's absolutely nothing out of the normal if the government does that. The other thing, is in ensuring that we have the political willpower to do a lot of things. Now, think about it. The Nigerian gas flare commercialization program was started in 2017. Until 2025, we haven't actually gotten projects built already from it because we delayed the bidding process and the award process for 5 years. Now, that's something that we could do better. It's an opportunity for enhancement and optimization of our processes, and in fact, the way we do governance as a whole. So definitely, the government should remove all of the line across the entire gas sector, whether it be making sure that there's bankability on the project, making sure that there's implementation of the, of the commercial agreements. For example, in the power sector, if you you're going to have a lot of legacy debt issues bedeviling you, starting from the fact that people may not pay for their electricity, and so you may not be paid for your gas, starting from the fact that there might be sabotage along the line, starting from the fact that there will be leakages. So the government would go into the value chain, find all the line mines. Whether the line mines means that we need to put in more enforcements around certain provisions, or the mitigating the landmines means that we need to actually put security enforcement in place. But we need to debottleneck the entire process and value chain to make it a
I think I'll take that from you. And before I let you go, the Minister of Gas Resources just make a plea and urge. Doc, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
The current Minister of Gas just made a plea to the new NNPC board and said, please, the AKK gas pipeline, please ensure it is done. I could recall this is over a project that is almost getting to a decade, if I'm correct in this regard. So what would be your advice to the current NNPC board and the AKK gas pipeline ongoing?
I mean, it will be my word to the NNPC, not just for the AKK, but for every project. One is, let's put up the right attitude for and focus on the project. Let's communicate professionally and transparently and about the timelines. And then, of course, let's make sure we do all we can to optimize. The only room at the top is the room for improvement.
Exactly.
And we need to make sure that we're always improving, but let's not play politics with timelines and deliveries.
Exactly.
That's the way to get it done.
And I really thank you for that. And I take that from you. Timeline for delivery is very key, because the AKK gas pipeline is close to a decade. And we are still talking about AKK gas pipeline from the Niger Delta to the northern part of the country. Mr. Dr. Wisdom, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's quite interesting that your submission, your perspective is very deep and insightful for today's discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Amen. And I hope when next I call on you, sir, we'll be glad to be part of the show.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right. Now enjoy the rest of your stay in Lagos, sir.
And you too. Thank you.